with the upcoming edition of the DeSalle map. Well, it's been delayed enough times, right? Hopefully soon. Hopefully. I wanted to expand on my original 10 tips for new console players video, which I will link in the description below. Everything in this video will be things that I either wanted to expand on a little more or perhaps I omitted from the first video. So with that, let's get started. Let's start where we left off. Tip number 11. Use a headset that puts the game audio in your ears. If you use the default headset that comes with the Xbox, the one with like the single little speaker right here and it's just a arm brace over there, I'm not saying you can't find success, but look, even if you have a decent home theater system, you're still putting yourself at a bit of a deficit if you aren't using something that puts the game right here. That's how Hunt is designed. Sound is huge. Sound is very important. Get yourself, I mean, look, these are like the cheapest Turtle Beaches that I can get, and to be clear, I'm not sponsored by anyone. It doesn't have to be Turtle Beaches, but just make sure that whatever headset you get, it can put the game audio right against your head. For tip number 12, I'm going to revisit one of the topics that I covered in the first 10. These right here, these are the controls that I'm working with right now. I actually made the plunge as my cat just interrupts. Yeah, sure, go ahead. Yeah, see yourself off. Anyway, in the first video, I showed my controls where I was running Gunslinger. I put about 1,600 plus hours into console Hunt with Gunslinger controls. I recently decided to take the plunge and revisit Hunter, and even though it hasn't been the smoothest, I think this is going to be how I play going forward, and I'm going to expand a little bit on why. There were a few things, let's call it a few, I don't really want to call it advantages, but there were a few features of the Hunter control scheme that I did not realize until I actually played on PC and I tried the Hunter scheme out. So one of my regulars on console is Solid Light, and I have taken the plunge, and yeah, those are my controls right now. I'm probably going to be tweaking these further. They feel pretty decent right now. Anyway, what did I overlook and what did I miss from the first time that I talked about Hunter versus Gunslinger? Well, I already talked about, at rest and, look, if you're using the default Xbox controller, the default one, the reality of the matter is it's a little weird aiming your melee if you had to click in the left thumbstick. Maybe it's not so bad on PlayStation, but I find it real squirrely. So if you're running Gunslinger, if you're trying to, aim, your melee, it's a little squirrely. So it's a little easier to be able to wind up, and then you can move freely without having to worry about keeping that thumbstick clicked in. Maybe it's not as big of a deal for you, but it was a big deal for me. Here's the biggest one though. So you can, first of all, you can now have 3 turning speeds. So you can have one turning speed that's just for like regular, for maneuverability. So if you want to take your shot and then quickly duck behind cover. Let me find a wall and better illustrate this. Having just that extra little bit of turning speed is the difference between being able to get your shot off here and then quickly getting out of cover, rather than getting your shot and then strafing out. I know that might not seem like a huge advantage, like it's really a big deal, but just take my word for it. This is giving your opponents just that much less of a window to aim at you than this. And to expand a little further, remember, in Gunslinger, you have one sensitivity here, and then you have another sensitivity here, and then that's it. If you run Hunter, you can dedicate one turning speed to just your movement. You can fine-tune your hip fire accuracy. So you can, in other words, you don't have to set this for both your movement and your aim. You can have this just be for your hip fire accuracy. So if you want to use things like levering, or if you want to run shotguns, this helps out a lot. And then, of course, you still have your ADS, right? I will say, it takes a little bit of getting used to, because you have to press one button and then another one to aim down sights. But if you have a little bit of budget to dedicate, or if you already own an Elite controller, or if you're like me and you own the Razer Wolverine controller, you can help yourself out a little bit. If you own one of those controllers, you can program these two buttons as well as the back buttons. There's two paddles here that you can aim, so you can have more options. So if aiming there and then clicking on the thumbstick, which I'm not a huge fan of because I don't know if you can tell, like I'm pretty good at it, but it's very easy to throw off your aim when you click in that right thumbstick. Like it's not, especially when you're in the middle of a firefight, you're trying to aim at a moving target. That sometimes that little flick, that little hesitation can be a bit of a problem. So what I have done, and I believe my partner Solid Light has done, I think he's using one of the paddles. I don't remember. If he wants to chime in the comments, he can. But what I have done is I have my ADS set to my left trigger, and then I set my aim down sights to the programmable button right next to it. Here, let me make this bigger so you can see it. I have it set to this button right here. So I can go hip fire, ADS, and then my finger's right here on the right trigger. So you can go. With a little bit of practice, it gets pretty smooth. So look, if you don't have, an expensive controller, don't feel like you have to get one. I just wanted to bring it to people's attention to where, look, I got this on sale. I think it normally retails for close to $200. I think I caught it on sale for like 160. It's still really expensive. But if you've got some cash to burn and this is one of your concerns, then you should at least know that it is an option. So I've taken the plunge, and I will be the first to tell you not everything has gone smooth. For example, you have to get used to the fact that if you want to use your items, you have to first, hold the left trigger before you prep it, because if you don't, then you just you just punch. It takes a little getting used to. And if you're one of the people watching me on my Twitch, you've already seen me screw up. But I will say this, I'm adjusting rather quickly, and I don't think I'm going back. Tip number 13. Trials mode is good for more than just, testing yourself, or if you want to do any of the challenges, you're more than welcome to do so. But if there's a compound that you're having trouble with, or, or you just want to learn a little better, or, you're getting shot from strange angles and you don't necessarily know it, or you just want to really, really walk through it without having to worry about enemy hunters or AI, you can do that in Trials mode, consequence-free. You can explore every compound as much as you want to your heart's content. You can walk all over the map. You don't necessarily have to stay here. You can even use the Trials to essentially fast travel between them. But anyway, explore to your heart's content. You can climb everything, look at everything. You can find every dirty angle you can think of, so that maybe you'll have a bit more knowledge the next time you get into a fight at that compound. Tip number 14, and this is a little subjective, and you can tweak it to your own personal taste, but I'm a rip the Band-Aid off kind of guy. When you're new, in my opinion, you are better off seeking out PvP. Go towards the gunshots. The best way to learn is by doing. So if you aren't participating, you won't be learning. That's just my personal opinion. Now, that being said, look, if you're getting wrecked, I get it. Take a break, run some silence loadouts. Maybe you just run around and farm out a few compounds, try to get some perks, try to get some traits, maybe find some cash registers and extract. Maybe take the vulture perk and try to, clean up behind some enemy fights. But, look, you can watch all the tip videos in the world. None of them are going to substitute for actually getting into the fights and learning for yourself. For tip number 15, my final tip for this video, we're going to talk about, in my opinion, the best way to approach death in Hunt. You're going to die a lot, okay? Try your best to take each death and turn it into a learning experience. Believe me, I understand if you get frustrated. Sometimes this is not easy, but this is how I try to approach deaths in Hunt. 9 out of 10 deaths, I'm going to assume are my fault. And I'm going to assume that I made a mistake in one of 3 categories: mechanics, positioning, and communication. Mechanics. What do I mean by mechanics? Mechanics, I mean mostly your aim. Did I just miss too much? Did I potato my shots too often? Well, one thing you can do to help that is take the weapon that you want to learn and go into the training mode and shoot a lot of things and try to learn things like the lead on a weapon, for example. Was it positioning? Did I make a positioning error? Was I in a bad spot? If you don't put yourself in a good spot to start, then it may not matter how good your aim is. Did you get sandwiched? Did you charge out? Were you too aggressive? Were you not aggressive enough? Was there an advantage that you could have pressed a little harder and chose not to? These are all things that you can think about in terms of positioning. Communication. Did you give your teammate the information they needed? Were they giving you the information that you needed? This is something that you need to talk about at the end of every match, especially if you have one of those scenarios where your teammate was doing one thing and you thought they were going to do something else. So just to reemphasize, this is how I approach death and hunt. I assumed that just about every single one of my deaths was due to one of those three things. I hope you found these additional tips helpful. Another video I'm considering doing in the future, and please give me feedback on this. If this is something you think that you would find useful, I might do a loadout video. Basically go over some loadouts that I have fun with, particularly on console, and if you're having trouble choosing how to pair weapons and whatnot, that's something I may do in the future. Just let me know in the comments. Anyway, if you have any questions at all, you can always ask me in the comments here on YouTube, or you can catch me live on my Twitch channel. I typically stream Hunt Console on Friday nights, but I do sometimes put it on other nights as well. So you can hit me up there. That is twitch.tv/NickMakesNoise. I will link that in the description as well. Come say hi, be a part of the community. I also do have a Discord. So if you want to join that, I will link that in the description also. Anyway, happy hunts, y'all. I'll see y'all in the bayou.